No problem.
Thanks, Nick. Actually, I'm going to steal the initial limelight just to set the scene for Matt and Amy's
I
session.
might have known.
Yeah,
I might have known.
of course. Why do you think I'm here? So yeah, thank you, Nick, and I am personally delighted to welcome Amy to join us and share her experiences with the rest of the local government community. For those that aren't aware of GOSS, we've been around for 20 plus years. We started our history in supporting local government in delivering content management systems, the GOSS ICM platform. As I think Mike mentioned, is something that a lot of authorities have had for many numbers of years, but when the comprehensive spending review kicked off after the last austerity round, we realised that our client community were going to need to do a lot more to change the way they operated. So what we did is we launched the GOSS digital platform way back in 2012, nearly 10 years ago now, and we've continued to iterate and build on that. And as I was mentioning earlier in the previous session, you know, our business process engine is built on an industry standard, a BPM model, version 2. So, you know, everything that we do is built to industry standards. And, you know, we realized that our clients needed to get more and more services online as quickly as possible. So we've continued to iterate our platform to the point that we have our low-code case management engine that was released a couple of years ago now. And a number of our clients are doing some great work with it. In terms of our client community, next slide, please, Matt. I feel like old Bot Bojo there. But we look after public and private sector, which across the country. We were delighted to welcome our friends in Basingstoke and Dean to the GOSS community quite recently. And we also had a number of clients go live just at the beginning of this year over in Chorley and South Ribble. And yeah, that's GOSS. We are a busy little company doing lots of good things, but without further ado, let's hand you over to the really important session, which is Matt and Amy. Thanks, guys, and looking forward to hearing your story.
Thanks, Simon. Morning, everybody. So, yeah, we're here to share experiences that Antrim and Newtownabbey have been doing over the last 12 months or so. Antrim and Newtownabbey came on as a GOSS customer back in 2019 and have been very busy with the platform since then. They're based over in Northern Ireland, just north of Belfast, and their aspirations to become one of the leading digital local authorities in Northern Ireland. So they procured our self-serve platform and since then have been busy creating a number of services. First of all, mainly around the waste side of things, because that was one of the real hot key areas that they wanted to reduce number of customer calls into. They've been busy doing bulky waste services, bin collection dates, and have managed to reduce waste service calls into customer services by more than 50% over the last 12 months. But then obviously in the last 12, 14 months, the pandemic appeared. So things changed quite rapidly. Antrim initially procured our bookings module for commercial aspects, but as time went on, they had to reutilize that for a number of different reasons, such as booking recycling centre trips and bits and pieces like that, which Amy no doubt will cover in more detail than myself. But also, you know, they're very pleased with what they've got. Unfortunately, Antrim don't have a large number of developers, which is why they've gone down our platform route, because it is low code and there are a lot of modules that enable them to create a lot of solutions for their residents to be able to interact still with the council over the last 12 months when different channels obviously weren't available. So Amy is actually a business support officer within Antrim and Newtownabbey, and she's going to give an overview now of what the team have been up to and what the aspirations are moving forwards for the local authority. So Amy, thank you very much for being here today, and I'll hand over to yourself.
Yep, no problem at all. Thank you very much for inviting me along. Yes, as Matt said, we did have GOSS on board pre-pandemic, so thankfully we were quite familiar with it, and probably to give an idea of how easy it is to use, I have zero IT background, as in not even a GCSE, and I can work this. So if you do need an example of it, but very quickly, once COVID set in, our biggest problem was our household recycling centres. I'm sure it was the same all over. It was a very sharp close very quickly when loads of people were at home and insisted on clearing out regardless of what we were trying to tell them. So we did need a solution for getting them back open again. And what was very helpful is we did have some in-house versions that we were trying to run, which was Excel sheets, Microsoft Teams, but GOSS very quickly came through with the kind of bespoke version for us, worked with us, a lot of hand holding where needed, but now we entirely maintain it ourselves. It's been absolutely fantastic. We were able to reopen our recycling centres. One of the biggest problems we were facing was not just the volume of traffic, the actual location of our centres meant even pre-pandemic, we would sometimes have issues with traffic management, with traffic going back onto the roads. So this is actually looking at a much longer term solution to problems we weren't even aware we could solve with this. So this is actually, it's still here despite everything running as normal. We are still implementing it because it has been so helpful. We're probably one of the only councils over here that was able to keep the recycling centres open. I think there was incidents of traffic management causing issues where they had to shut other council sites. So we've been quite lucky that this has allowed us to stay open and manage the waste safely for everyone. So it's been very effective in that. We have found since going online with it, as I said at the beginning, we had completely in-house solutions, which were just so resource heavy. So we do have an external provider of live chat, but I do believe we're going over to GOSS. It's certainly something that we're looking at, Sean had mentioned, as it provides everything we need. So eventually even that will be integrated. But we found the second we got the platform online and got the link onto our live chats dropped within 72% overnight, which meant we were able to take, we were using staff in overtime hours because our sites were open to 8 and our office was open to 5. So we needed this to work very well. It's actually the only service we had which ran outside of business hours. So the fact that this is able to run on its own, and we were actually able to take the overtime member of staff off, much to their delight, because in the middle of a pandemic, it was a long week, a very long week for everyone. So that immediately solved our issues. We were able to run a 9 to 5 office with a 9 to 8 PM service, with no impact on it at all. So we found immediate benefits of it. Residents loved it. We have had a lot of thanks for residents that actually live around the sites, as I said, from the traffic management point of view. Before, they had issues on Saturdays and things like that, and they were like, please keep the booking system. And we have some sites which aren't as affected from a location point of view where the system currently isn't at, and we have those residents saying, please put it in, I like to get out of my driveway. So it's always something we're looking at going forward. But we have found beyond booking systems with COVID, as it was mentioned before, this solution was brought in. It probably was always intended to go through the council, but from a waste point of view and our immediate frontline services like bulky waste and things like that, we're already looking at retiring the waste use of grunt software, which we had built, because this is actually better. And that low code idea that I can change it as needs be without going out to a third party and not only paying them, but waiting for them to do it. And then the back and forward, because it hasn't been quite what we envisioned. We have found that GOSS is a better solution to it. So there's more systems going online because of COVID, the likes of the grants. It used to be a paper application form and someone would have filled it in and then it would have been signed off. So what we found is going with a GOSS solution is going to take it through entirely digitally. The better security that's involved with that, the reduced paper that's involved with that. So we're finding we're implementing it a lot more, especially in COVID. There's things we probably haven't thought of that this is providing solutions for. It's maybe taking this little push to get us running with it. But certainly we've found everything we've asked of GOSS has been implemented, we've got an answer for so far. So we do plan and keeping using it and phasing the other ones out, because this has answered everything we've needed it to do.
That's
So,
brilliant.
yeah.
Thank you, Amy. You also implemented the postcode ability as well, didn't you, to ensure that
Yes.
residents from other areas weren't able to rock up at
Yes.
the only 2 recycling centres?
Absolutely. That's something that GOSS built for us, quite bespoke as an add-on to it. It doesn't affect how we use it here. It is very simply a drop down to add it in. Having that bespoke add-on doesn't make it more complicated. We do have 2 household recycling centres which are right on the edge of the borough, and due to limited resources we did have to limit it to our residents only, which did understandably cause some issues at the start, but the fact we had those issues showed that the resources weren't being used properly. So again, GOSS has put a solution in to solve a problem we didn't think was solvable and had kind of accepted our fate with it. But the fact that the booking system's there, and it basically what it does is you book using your postcode, and if your postcode doesn't fall within our borough, you can't proceed. That's as simple as it is. And it works. So we have found that the only people that can use it are the people that are supposed to be using it. So it's ensuring that our resources are being used properly, especially when things are as tough as they are, that they're going to where they need to go, and that our own residents can benefit of them when they need to.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Thank you ever so much for that.
No problem at all.
And moving forwards, you're looking at potential mapping solutions, aren't you, for reporting?
Yes. There is the reported product that we're hoping to integrate very soon, and GOSS has already built us the bespoke maps for our bulky collection service, which has been helpful, but we are hoping to do a bit of route optimization, so the integration in with it, hopefully using the maps that GOSS has already put in place. But I'd explain what the maps are is, again, the system picks up the postcode and automatically assigns it out to the crew that covers that area. So it has taken a lot of the thinking out of it for our staff, who needed to remember the zones of 2 or 3 crews, which is just not possible in 58,000 households. So it's taken that out of it for a start, but then using that further to try and make sure that the routes are not only efficient, but once we can pre-plan routes, we can then activate the text service, which means our residents know the night before to put their items out. So it's solving 2 problems as we go, happy byproducts of fixing the other. So we are finding there's things that we had just thought there's no way we'll be able to know when they can be collected, and here we are now, we do. So we can notify residents and get the efficiencies from fuel and staff hours as well.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much. So yes, thank you very much for being able to share your experiences. That's really, really helpful and appreciate it. I believe I'm going to hand over to my esteemed colleague.
Yeah, Lord Orchard is about to take the reins. And yeah, just to add to Matt there, Amy, thank you so much for giving us some insights there. But if you wouldn't mind just staying on for a little bit longer in case any of the rest of the community got any questions at the end. But yeah, without further ado, the legend that is Lord Orchard, Andy, over to you, fella.
Thanks, guys, and thanks, Amy, for that pretty useful insight into what you sort of worked on last year with us. So I guess assume a few of you might be wondering, kind of, you know, what it means. What is the recycling centre bookings? How does it work for customers? What does the system kind of look like? And you know, how did the guys at Antrim sort of go about launching that to the public? Like I say, so I think one of the things for us around this notion of low code is as much about sort of, you know, adaptability of products as it is about, you know, there being, you know, as little code as possible. And if we provide the tool sets that allow customers to take our products and, you know, engineer many different applications for those products, then that is you know, a great reuse example. You know, I think sort of this time last year, you know, we'd never envisaged that our bookings platform would become the center point for a recycling center appointment management system. You know, we'd really seen it flourish in sort of circumstances for like Matt was describing, the sort of commercial side. So I think, you know, you used to be able to book yourself a seat at the Mosty Mill fishing lake in Antrim, and it was all sort of quite sort of tourism based. You know, book yourself a family trip in the local museum, or indeed book your kids onto you know, a half-term activity week provided by the councils. So to then sort of have this kind of emerging requirement sort of last April to sort of say we need to, you know, we need to manage traffic flow, we need to give customers some sort of online booking. We sort of started looking at the set of requirements and went, well, this is the GOSS Bookings product. So through a series of you know, sort of demonstrations via our sort of Slack channel with our customers, you know, within a matter of weeks we had you know, a large number of our clients who had our bookings module looking to sort of learn how it could be achieved. And ultimately, yeah, so through adaptability, we basically can set up bookings for recycling centres to work in a manner of different ways. So here's the current sort of live example of the Antrim and Newtownabbey booking for recycling centres. One of the key things was they had two recycling centres at the outset that users could book themselves on. So that was an instant, you know, differentiator. Choose your site, if you like. So we can easily categorise a site within our bookings module. Then we had this notion really of time slots throughout the day, and lots of them. Because obviously you don't intend to spend the entire day at the tip. You intend to drop and go. You know, so what they needed was, you know, frequent recurring slots throughout the day. So again, something our booking system was perfectly capable of doing. What we hadn't seen perhaps was that these, you know, previously these slots would be 15 minutes long or even 10 minutes long, and would repeat at the volume that they could repeat at. So very much like the concept of, you know, booking your online supermarket shopping delivery. You know, we need to configure a set of time slots that repeat throughout the day and have a fixed amount of availability. And this is where things get slightly more interesting again. So we're looking at O'Neill at the moment. We can see the slots throughout the day. We can see here the availability per slot. So there's a notional capacity management as well that we're now considering. We want to have, you know, a fixed volume of vehicles turning up for every 15-minute time slot. We want to manage this traffic flow, and we want to give people reasonable time frames to turn up. We can't say, you know, oh, your slot's at 9:01 and Matt, you turn up at 9:03 and Simon, you turn up at 9:05, because none of us are going to get there on time and it's going to be absolute chaos. So what we do is we then have an overarching sort of slot availability. And when I go to book that, the next challenge was, okay, so not everyone has the same size vehicle, and some people turn up with trailers, and some people turn up with vans. How are we going to sort of manage that demand in the context of this 15-minute window? So again, we sort of looked at the booking module, and we always had a principle of packages. Primarily, they used to sort of represent, you know, adults and family groups and children and things like that, with different costs associated. But by quickly spinning those on the head and saying, well, okay, let's have a large van and a small van and a car and trailer, and then let's set the size of those different packages, if you like, to determine how much of that slot they take up. So here we have the large van takes up 3 slots. So it's like 3 vehicles turning up. A car is 1, a car and trailer is 2, and a small van is 2. So of our max 18 within this 15-minute time slot, we could have 18 cars, or we could have 6 large vans, or we could have, you know, 9 small vans, or any combination that's permitted of the above factors. So again, sort of by repurposing those same principles very quickly within, it's fair to say, we're not even talking, a week of building an application. We're talking 15, 20 minutes of standing this application up and ready. So then we have the idea notion that you can, set maximums. So, you can only make one large van within a particular session, which is useful. And we quickly attune, change the purpose of capturing someone's name to capture their vehicle reg. We don't need to know their name for them turning up at the recycling centre. We don't even want to have any contact with them when they turn up. We just want to see on our tablet device at the site a list of vehicles that are scheduled to turn up today. So we capture the reg details, we capture an email so they can be sent a confirmation of their booking, and we let them make that booking. So very quickly we've got that calendar, those slots, those vehicle types, the registration numbers being collected. Like Amy described, we initially started with a very simple sort of address lookup that prefaced the calendar to make sure that we didn't have too many Belfast city residents abusing their locality to come to the tip. We then built that a bit more into the booking, so that you had to complete that to make your booking, and also it came through on your check-in screen on your tablet device as a user. And that was also too, we're not just talking here about a low-code application, or even in this respect, I would say a no-code application that's delivered a sort of self-service booking interface. We've got a complete no-code check-in and vehicle management system at the back end as well. There is no other system that gets used. The guys log on via a browser in the morning to their device. They can clearly see the list of bookings coming for that session. The registration plate is nice and clear on the booking, and they literally tick them off as they come in to that session. And then they've got the tracking then of the occupancy of these sessions, how many people don't turn up, and all that kind of value add as well within the mix. And that's quite sort of transformational, really. And again, because it's real time, I can book this morning for the 11:45 slot. If I wanted to, I can turn up in 9 minutes time. And because the guys have been enabled with devices on site, that's absolutely brilliant. And this is really the sort of core of the system. And we've seen some other sort of fantastic use cases of this adaptable product over the last few months with other clients. So we've had West Lothian Council over in Scotland sort of have seen what other councils were doing in this area and sort of thought, oh, we could do the same. So they wanted to better manage van and trailer bookings to recycling centres. So took again the same principles. Here are the 5 sites which you can book. And if we look at one of those sites, again, here's an example of the postcode lookup prefacing the booking. So we select an address and we go through, and then we can see in this context, they actually have a minimum booking delay of like 2 days in effect. So they don't have devices on site. That's a hardware challenge for them. So they need to compile sort of exports of the bookings, the daily bookings, and prepare those for the crews so they know who's coming. So within 2 days from today, for example, I can make a booking at a site. And here you can see, again, they're using the principles of the different capacities for the booking. So I've got a van and a car and trailer here. Again, with the bookings platform, when we designed it from the outset, we knew that customers would want to change all of this textual information. It's very easy for a sort of an application to bake in the text so that you can't modify it. Which, if you do that, you have to be sort of either very generic when you build the application to make sure the text suits everything, or you just make sure that all the text on screen, you can manipulate it. So that's exactly what Antrim have done and what the guys at West Lothian do. They change the text here to better describe what's being booked. And they've got the freedom to do that, again, without any kind of developer involvement at all. they can build up a series of different templates for all their bookings. And then when they create their, what we call their recurrences, they just choose the right template that they want to use at that time. We also did the same over in East Renfrewshire. So they initially, sort of through the Scottish Government, were kind of corralled, I think is the nicest way to say, into the Microsoft Bookings platform. Again, they had traffic management issues. They wanted to better control the flow of people to the sites. So they took on the Microsoft system. And obviously that was fine. That fitted the bill initially of what they needed to do, but they found very quickly that it wasn't able to cope with the demand. For one reason or another, most residents of East Renfrewshire love going to the tip. And I guess, you know, we all did, didn't we, when they were shut for a couple of months, and we had nothing to do but to clear out our houses. We had an awful lot of waste to get rid of when they reopened. So yeah, so we're working on a digital customer experience program with East Renfrewshire, and they came to us again with these requirements. We said, well, we've just done this over in Antrim, and also West Lothian are doing it as well. Showed them what was there, and they said, well, that's great, we would love to reuse that. So again, similar scenarios. Address lookup prefaces the booking screen. You put your address in. If you're not a resident, then you won't get that booking. And here we've got the time slots coming through here to show the different times of day. And again, through sort of a bit of CSS, they can redisplay those available slots in a different way. But here we can see the pure volumes of slots throughout the day, and these are 10-minute windows. What we actually did through the project itself was improve the bookings product so that you could more easily create all of these occurrences in one go. So we sort of saw the requirement coming through and saw that actually, yeah, by a quick change in how the product worked, we could meet this requirement much more easily.
Andy, it's worth saying the postcode lookup that you've shown there, that's a standard plugin for ours, isn't it? It's not a bespoke development for anybody in particular.
No, that's right. Yeah, so we provide a centrally hosted postcode data source that most of our clients sort of subscribe to, and they then just, you know, with the forms designer, just drop that into their forms, and they can then add, you know, validation as we did here to sort of say, well, you know, it's a national lookup, but if you don't fulfill the requirements of the right postcode, then you can't proceed to the booking form. So just a little check in there to make sure that they're not, you know, they are passing the right checks before they go and make the booking. And as we move on, you know, what's been, again, really quite significant in how people have used it more recently is we've now seen it used for booking COVID-19 tests. Again, another scenario where councils are providing these new services and they want to provide instant online bookings, because potentially the principle of having to do this over a telephone service is sort of mind-boggling, isn't it? So being able to completely automate both the bookings and the sort of check-in procedures after the fact is really useful. So again, the same technology being adapted slightly to suit vaccination bookings. So again, here we're seeing the the adjustment of the textual content on screen. We're seeing the different types of packages created, and we're seeing then how they can capture different aspects of content for each booking. So same product, multiple applications, very little / zero input from GOSS in building these. I know Stockton procured with us last January. The contract started in January. They went live with bookings for Preston Park Museum in July. Since then, they've taken 50,000 bookings for various different applications across the organisation. So you sort of think pre that technology, what would they have done? So it's really useful. So if we took a look over, has anyone got any questions before I carry on sort of rabbiting on at you?
I could say, I don't know if you want to cover the guys at Clackmannanshire, Andy, as well, but they also used what they were using bookings for.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. So they they use the bookings platform to do flu vaccination bookings for their staff. So again, same scenarios. They have a series of time slots that they can make available throughout the day, and a set amount of capacity, and they wanted to stand that up really quickly. At the same time, we were talking with them about that. They're also using the same platform for booking ski lessons at their Fir Park ski centre. So same application, different type of booking, and then we started adapting it to fulfil the requirements of desk booking within their offices. So at certain points of this pandemic, we've kind of been potentially going back to the office and not going to the office. They were looking at reopening the office at some point last November. I started to pilot different desk areas within the building to allow for that to take place. So really useful, again, applications of the same technology.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andy. I think Nick, any questions out there for either ourselves or indeed for Amy?
Here I am. Do you want to stop sharing your screen?
That's you told, Andy.
Yeah. So, oh look, there are. Of course, there are. So, Anne, do you want to pop up? Where are you?
Yeah.
There you are.
Yeah. I put something in chat, but basically, just to clarify my understanding, what you're actually showing us, that's obviously the low-code solution. But is that dependent on having your CRM type product behind it, or is it independent of that? And can it work with other CRMs such as Dynamics?
Yeah, it is available as a standalone product. I mean, that's interesting how Clackmannanshire came to GOSS. They saw the GOSS Bookings products 2 or 3 years ago, and looked to have some bookings challenges within the organisation. Reviewed GOSS Bookings, went through a procurement process, realised that actually the rest of the platform would also suit their requirements, and bought the lot. But you can run the bookings platform without the need for the rest of the GOSS platform, which is great because it uses the same technology. It's not something else, but we do sell it as an individual item, and it could be a great sort of starting point into these kind of technology offerings.
But it can actually integrate with something like Dynamics, or does it sort of sit on top of it separately?
Depends. Yeah, you can integrate. Absolutely, depends to what extent, I suppose, would be the question. Whether you wanted to match a booking perhaps from a customer to a customer account, perhaps in something like Dynamics, then that would be technically feasible. If you wanted to export the bookings into something like Dynamics, then that's also feasible too. So I mean, it's totally possible. It depends how and in what way you'd like to achieve that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question, Andrew.
Thanks, Ange. Anybody else? Oh, Greg, you've unmuted. You're going to pop up?
Yeah, just quick question, I suppose. I presume this app runs on any device from PC to Android.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just built into our standard website delivery methodology. Fully WCAG 2.1 compliant. It's just browser based. It's not a booking app in any shape or form. Like I say, therefore both customers can make bookings in a responsive format, and staff can take bookings and manage bookings in a mobile responsive format too.
Yeah, cool. And Amy mentioned about the household waste. Was there some integration with the bulky waste application as well?
Yeah, they use our platform, our case management technology, to deliver their bulky waste management system as well. That was one of the first things I think they went live with a few years ago.
Yeah, it was one of their key pain points when they look to go out to procure.
It goes until 1 o'clock.
They use there is a notion of what we call sort of slot management for the bulky waste collections. So they do that slightly differently, just by the very nature of it. I think there's a certain amount of collections in a certain ward per day, So they just have sort of a sort of accounting mechanism behind the scenes to control that. So it's less, it's less sort of, we're not turning up to your property at 9:15 and leaving by 9:23. It's, your sofa will be picked up, in the AM of a defined Tuesday in the month.
I'd like to hear from Amy a bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything in particular?
I think he answered your question for you then, but I think I prefer your dulcet tones than orchids. So yeah, why don't you please go ahead and talk to Greg.
Was this just kind of about the bulky service? And well, if Andy did mention it, we do case management, so we have all our waste services. Just finishing building mist bins to get it on. It's kind of our only one outstanding. And while the bookings does run separately, there isn't much overlap, but it's purely because of the nature of the work. The fellas on site don't really leave the site, so they just manage the bookings part. But what we have found quite helpful is having all of the services together available to everyone. So we do bin deliveries, bulkies is on there, fly tip response crews, street litter response crews. So what we've found is if they've got the iPad out with them, we give them access to not all the tasks, just because it's confusing when they see everything, but they can actually log a request, anyone. So if the bin delivery crew sees a fly tip when he's out and about, he has access that he can just report it himself. So we found that having everything on the one platform is actually really helpful, just from providing that kind of next level customer service that our staff are responding when they see things. We're finding the bulky crew maybe shows up and they're lifting something for someone, and they come out and they'll mention their bin's damaged, so they'll put on to get their household bin replaced for them. So we're finding just wee things like that, having everything together all on one platform. Having the iPads is very helpful for that. It means that the responsive system can actually be used as responsively as it can get. It's live jobs going over and live responses back. So having iPads definitely does help getting the most out of the system.
Yeah,
and having it that responsive.
Good, thank you. That was going to be my next question, because you could appreciate as soon as the household waste sites closed, there was a high incidence of fly tipping.
Yes.
So, and we have a report a fly tip function on our web page. So I was just wondering how would that possibly integrate into like the bulky waste collections, etc.
Well, we do have a separate fly tip crew, so it's we have the case management product, but what we did was just build a separate fly tipping form. It's that service is mirrored on our website for our residents as what the staff can report. So we do have the separate crew that responds, but what happens first is it either comes through the phones and our staff put it on, or it comes through the website, and we assign the case over to our environmental health team, who are also on GOSS. This is where we're kind of branching out across the other departments. So they'll take a look at it and investigate, and once they've their investigation done, depending on the waste type, if we know it's a mattress, they're probably not going to find anyone's name and address on it for us. So we'll just send it directly over to a street cleansing crew to collect. But otherwise it'll sit over with our enforcement team. They'll take a look, and then once they're happy that they've done all they can, then they will actually send it over to our street cleansing crew to collect, and our back office staff don't see it again. It actually goes straight out to either the supervisor or the crew directly, if that crew happens to be running that day. So we find in terms of efficiency, it's helpful having it all together. And the thing is, sometimes our street cleansing crew, they're not out, there's been a breakdown, and there is the option of sending it over to the bulky crew, who does have the biggest van, who can possibly do it. So it does allow that flexibility, but in general, we'll keep them all separately as resources permit, just for handiness sake of knowing who's doing what of a day. But the system does allow that kind of the flexibility of who's closest. Right, okay, well, I'll actually send the fly tip to a bulky crew, or the bulky crew can collect a damaged household bin if they happen to be near it, and it is an emergency. As there is such thing as an emergency damaged bin collection in the council. So there is the flexibility when everyone can see it like that. It's quite good that there's the options for everyone to see everything, or you can split out the tasks and people can only see what's relevant to them. So the flexibility is definitely helpful for response times.
Good, thank you.
Excellent, thanks Greg, thanks Amy. Are there any more questions?
Just while you're marshalling the questions, Nick, and if you're okay with listening to Andy's wonderful dulcet tones, I don't know if Andy wanted to share with the community what the guys at Gateshead do around the whole fly tipping and how that process is run, because they use geospatial mapping of their fly tips as well. So the crews are again out with iPads and picking up jobs as they come in.
Do you know what he's talking about, Andy?
He does. He's watched the video same as me.
Yeah, totally. Of course. It's just that was just the pregnant pause there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know the one.
You know the one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So again, Gateshead have a fully end-to-end digital service for fly tipping, and I've been running that for a number of years now. One of the first projects they embarked on to kind of explore, I guess, how the GOSS technology was going to replace their Lagan CRM system in the future. Which was moving them away from that traditional what we describe as to them as the print and pass. The very much jobs came in into Lagan, they got printed out on bits of paper, they got put into trays for staff to come in the mornings and go out with their piece of paper and do their job. So much as Amy's described there, it's kind of a similar principle for end-to-end delivery of that service. So they now don't, there is no paper. The guys go out with a tablet in their cab. They can see the jobs coming in real time. They plan their route with the jobs that they have in the morning, and they then go around the borough picking up those fly tips. What's important though is that they can report the fly tips themselves as they see them whilst they're out there, so they don't kind of lose out on that data. They don't just chuck it in the van. They have their own sort of form, if you like, within their own sort of crew account. They can complete that and take some snaps and upload it into the system, so everything is recorded. So yeah, that works really effectively. And I guess you might have argued, was there a challenge in getting the crew to use the technology? And they found it to be quite the opposite. They kind of embraced it, and they found it just made their working lives much more efficient, and they didn't have to return to the depot every couple of hours to get the next set of jobs. So they could just keep going and potentially do more within the day, but potentially work less within the day as well. So that was a bonus for them.
Thanks, Andy. See, pregnant pause or not, it was still very good to listen to, I felt. Nick.